I have always been a little bit of a workaholic since I've been 10, had my first paper route. And one doctor once said to me, just like when you have a problem in business and you throw yourself at it completely to do whatever it takes to solve that problem, when you have a mental illness, you should do a similar thing, like tackle it like it's a problem to be solved. So my name is Paul English. I live in Boston, grew up here. I'm one of seven, so I have three brothers and three sisters, and I have two kids both out of college. My job is right now I'm running a software studio, a venture studio, and what we do is work on our own ideas for new mass market consumer apps, so like social media apps, anything around mass market consumer. And we have, I think, 9 apps under development right now. For fun, I like being active. I love travel. I travel about 100,000 miles a year for the last 10 years. And yeah, that's kind of like, I like boating, biking, just being active. I was first diagnosed with bipolar when I was 25 years old. And I was working as an engineer at a startup in Boston and working 1,000,000 hours a week, and really had become quite manic in terms of like not sleeping, probably some grandiosity, like really high energy bursts, and where I got to the point where it was very hard to relate to other people or communicate with other people. I was easily frustrated, and I found back then most people like too slow to deal with, and so I really separated myself from other people. But I knew this was becoming a problem, so I sought help and saw a doctor in Boston and went through like an interview with the doctor about my medical history and my past and what's going on with me. And he was the first one to diagnose me as bipolar. So there's two sides to the bipolar. There's the manic side and the depressive side. On the depressive side, it's really just, for me, the way I experienced it was lethargy and exhaustion and a disinterest in everything. You start becoming not interested in work, interested in your friends or family, just kind of close in. And I spent kind of days on the floor, just not wanting to get out of my bedroom on the depressive side. And then on the manic side, there's, manic and there's hypomanic. Hypomanic is kind of like on the way to full manic. Full manic is when people have sort of a psychosis and they're hearing voices, and I've never been fully manic to that degree. I am what is often described as hypomanic, which is just like extreme bursts of energy, very little sleep. I could go days without sleep, and I could go weeks with only sleeping like a couple, 2 or 3 hours a night. And I become prolific. Probably most of the stuff I write when I'm manic makes no sense later when I'm not manic, but I just become in a very want to create, like very inventive mood. But then there's also the downside of manic, which is that you disconnect from other people, and you start making risky decisions and impulsive decisions, like very impulsive. And it for me, it needed to be something that I had to kind of check in on and get some help with. Yeah, the first time the doctor used the word bipolar with me, or I think maybe he might have used the word manic depressive, which is kind of an older term for bipolar illness. It actually did feel like a relief. It was a little bit like, what is this? It's an illness. I need to know more about this. But it felt like a relief because I knew that it was a known condition, that other people had it, and that there were treatment options for it. So I felt like by having a label, it gave me something to attack, something that I could work on with the doctor, and just by me reading as much as I can and learning as much as I can about the condition. I have a psychiatrist at Mass General Hospital in Boston, and he kind of worked with me over years to try to tweak the meds and figure out what meds work best for me, both on the depressive side and on the manic side. It took me several years before I found kind of the right cocktail, the right mix that works for me. But then in addition to having meds help me with sort of take the edge off both sides of the mood disorder, I also have been in and out of therapy for years just to learn techniques about how to deal with it when I'm either on the depressive side or on the manic side. The other thing that's been really helpful to me is when I'm on the manic side, I used to become very irritable and angry sometimes. And the thing that has I would say almost completely cured me of that is study of Buddhism. In particular, there's one teacher named Thich Nhat Hanh who passed away recently. He's a Vietnamese Buddhist. And he speaks quite a bit about getting rid of anger and having anger, just realizing anger is a choice. You can choose to be angry, you can choose just not to be angry. And through exercises and reading books and going to different retreats, I've learned how to manage that side of me. And now I'm someone who almost never gets angry. And when I do get angry, it dissipates really quickly. So through that, I've learned to bring kind of more peace into my life. When I was first diagnosed, I was working as a programmer for a company in Boston, and I started to open up just a very small set of people, maybe to a couple of siblings, and maybe one friend or one or two friends, maybe one or two people at work. And to me, telling someone about it was the first step of sort of the journey of improving the situation. There's a saying that secrecy is the opposite of healing, where if you try to keep something a secret, you never put it on the table as something to work on. And so I think I've encouraged other people who've been diagnosed early to open up and to find someone in your family, someone in your friend group, someone you work with, to tell what's going on. And they can kind of keep an eye on you and let you know when they think you're kind of going off the rails, either on the depressive side or on the manic side. And they can help kind of keep you in check. So initially it was sort of a self-preservation thing that I told a few people just so they could keep an eye on me and so that I could really unburden myself of the fear with this diagnosis. And it was incredibly helpful to me early in the diagnosis to be able to talk to a few people. Over time, when I learned how to really mostly control this condition, which for me was about age 40, it wasn't until about age 40 when I really felt I had a good handle on how to manage this. But then I started realizing it's actually useful to other people to have me be open about it, because if I was open about it at work, for example, and not getting up in front of 100 people making a big announcement, a big speech about it, but just quietly letting people know that, you know, I have mental health issues myself, it's been in my family, and I'm okay talking about it. It gives other people the comfort and the confidence to themselves be vulnerable as well and can begin in their healing. I mean, the biggest thing for me in mental health is there are treatment options that are available, and the path is a little bit different for each person. But if we destigmatize mental illness and treat it just like any other type of illness, you know, like when people have cancer, they don't hide that they have cancer. They're like, okay, talking about it. But if we have people feel comfortable talking a little bit about their mental illness, what's happening with them, it really is, I think, step one of your journey of healing, of getting other people to listen to you, to hear your story, to be able to offer you support. And what I hope to do through this video series and through other work that I do, nonprofit work around mental health, is just make more people feel safe to seek help from both professionals and from friends. I think the main thing we have to do to destigmatize mental illness is find more people to tell their stories so it becomes a normal thing. The worst thing about mental illness is when you feel alone and you feel like a freak and, you know, like you're unlike anyone else that you know. And once you realize there are other people who have a similar condition to you or even identical condition to you, only then can you say, all right, this is something that it isn't just me, like I'm not defective, there are other people with the same situation I have, and that can begin the path to fixing the condition. When I first got diagnosed, when I was in the doctor's office, I remember feeling a couple different things. One is, I mentioned that I've always been a bit of a workaholic and maybe a little bit of a control freak, that I want to control my destiny, and I work really hard to do that. And when you have an illness, part of it is you need to let go a little bit, and you need to allow others to help you. And sometimes it's difficult for people who are like control freaks to let go and let other people help you. But I made that decision when I got diagnosed, that I decided to trust this doctor, and I decided to let him help me. And also then by starting to talk quietly to a small set of people, it was the start of the journey for me of healing this and managing this illness.